Parker Dahl.
And I'm Warren Eichhoff.
And welcome to So What?
A place where we ask the question that is on the mind of many of our students. So what?
Wait, you're going to tell me how revolutions work? I'm ready for your instructions.
Should I be worried? The following are but some of the answers to these questions, and as always, you should do your own research.
Today we will talk about the rise of revolutions.
Specifically, the development of the French Revolution.
The first thing we need to acknowledge is that revolutions are not started by a single event.
Revolutions are developed over time, where there are a series of events that build on top of each other.
Like how the French monarchy had been increasing taxes for decades to fund wars against the English.
This by itself isn't enough. France also started to go through a period of bad harvests. Merchants raised the price of bread due to this shortage.
People were speaking out about the starvation that was happening across France. And those same people had to witness the opulence of the monarchy. How could they throw such lavish parties while people were literally dying in their own homes?
The final straw was the rumor of troops being sent to Paris with the purpose of silencing the people. This motivated a mob to storm the Bastille, and thus the revolution had begun.
Hello, yes, this is customer service, and we are conducting a poll consisting of a single question. So what?
Customer service? For what? We didn't call...
People only act irrationally if they haven't exhausted all of their options. Watch. Hello, customer service. How can I help you today?
My computer won't do anything. It just sits there, mocking me. I'll show it who's boss.
Sir, could you do me a favor and please make sure that your computer is plugged in?
You think I didn't check that? Okay, I'm looking right at it and, well, look at that. Silly me. It's working now. Thank you.
You see, all it takes is a level head. Oh, excuse me. Hello, customer service. How can I help you today?
Hello, I seem to have a problem. There isn't enough bread for people in the community.
I see. Well, have you tried contacting your representative of the government?
Yeah, didn't work.
Oh, well, maybe you could try writing a letter to the king.
Did that too.
Well, then you should march in the street, demanding that your king act on this matter.
Doing that now.
And what was the result?
The king threw a party for his friends.
A party? Like, with cake?
Probably, but what do we do now?
I don't know. Just like follow your heart.
Follow my heart? My heart says to rise against those cake eaters. To arms!
I feel like they just answered their own question.
Honestly, I just want to know what happened next.
Fair enough. Let's go back to France in 1789. Hello, random French noble individual. Can you please tell me the state of your country?
Bonjour! The country is doing very well. We have beaten those English dogs. True, the wars were costly, but it was worth it. The peasants are making a fuss about bread, but honestly, it's just bread. If I were to complain about anything, it is how loud these peasants have been. Luckily, the king has been throwing these elegant parties to drown out the noise. And there's cake!
Did you hear that?
You jump so easily. That's just...
Oh, I guess maybe you should call customer service? As you can see, the French Revolution happened because there were a lot of issues that were plaguing French society. And the peasantry really felt like they were being ignored.
At this point, the people took matters into their own hands. They would even justify this using the philosophy of Locke and Rousseau. They stated that the social contract had been violated.
And that the government needed to listen to the general will. For the government is simply a sum of the people within that country.
We often talk about revolutions as past events, like the American Revolution in 1776, but there have been many more revolutions.
The Russian Revolution of 1917 will see Russia pulling out of World War I and the toppling of the Russian Tsar. Not to mention that it will also see the rise of communism.
The Iranian Revolution in 1979 overthrew Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, resulting in the formation of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Revolutions are not limited to struggles against a single ruler. There can be pushback against oppressive regimes.
The Arab Spring was an anti-government protest, an uprising, and an armed rebellion that spread across much of the Arab world in the early 2010s. It began in response to oppressive regimes and a low standard of living, starting with the protest in Tunisia.
The 1989 demonstrations in East Germany will lead to the collapse of the Berlin Wall.
Not every rebellion will be successful. In fact, in 1989, the demonstrations in Tiananmen Square will result in a violent clampdown in China and a pushback against intellectuals.
Which brings up a question. Are revolutions good?
As usual, the answer is complicated. Of course, it depends on what your definition of good or bad is.
A much better question to evaluate revolutions: did they fix the problem?
Take the French Revolution, for example, which will be pushing for a more representative government, a republic. They will immediately get some food relief and will become a militaristic society. So in that sense, it was effective.
But France will also be controlled by fear. In a period known as the Reign of Terror, France will literally execute thousands of its own people each day for an entire year, trying to root out anybody who might be against them. And where does this get the country?
We'll see Napoleon next week. We're not done shattering idealized images of revolutions. The Russian Revolution will see mass famine extend across its entire country.
The American Revolution will see the creation of the Articles of Confederation, which was a government that couldn't even afford to pay its own troops for, well, the war they fought for independence. So there will be a rebellion against this, known as Shays' Rebellion. That's right, a rebellion against the revolution.
Revolutions can be times of incredible change, but they aren't the end of it. Governments need to continually evolve to the problems that arise. The Soviet government, for example, will change their practices around collectivized farming to produce more food for their country in the end.
The US will scrap the Articles of Confederation and instead create the Constitution, a document that is supposed to evolve with the times.
An uprising is called a revolution or a rebellion based on the viewpoint of the people evaluating it. All uprisings are trying to address the shortcomings of government and society.
In many ways, revolutions only happen if people don't feel safe in their own home. If people are fed and have shelter, then they're far less likely to march in the streets and risk their own death.
Because, as we've seen, if people feel like they've exhausted all their options and are not being heard, then they will act out of desperation.
So, if you have any concerns,
then keep them to yourself. We're not listening.
or you could just let us know. There's no need to start a revolution. And have a nice day. I couldn't help that person find a solution because it wasn't in the manual. But perhaps people don't always respond rationally to irrational behavior. The only way to break this cycle is for someone to stop and actually address the problem.
What's this? Cake? I don't mind if I do.